and welcome to the table. Thanks for joining us for today's episode. I'm Rachel and I'm joined here today by the fabulous Melody, Mary Ellen and the oh-so-wise Shona.
Oh, thank you.
Good to have you guys here. Are we all ready to go?
Yep. Oh, yes.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, today we're going to talk parenting. We're also going to ask if eating healthy is only possible with a healthy budget. And we're going to meet Louisa Hope, who survived an event that looms pretty large here in the Sydney region, the Lindt Café siege, and she's an incredible lady. But first, Mary Ellen, I want to ask you.
Oh.
You're sort of at that age where 21sts are happening and embarrassing baby photos are coming out by your parents, but is it something that you would sue your parents over?
No.
Hold on, there was a yes there.
It's tempting. I mean, the money, no. Yeah, well, interestingly enough, this actually is a story that happened in Austria, and the Daily Mail UK reported that an 18-year-old daughter was suing her parents in the in Austria about 6 months ago for posting over 500 embarrassing baby photos of her on their Facebook account. Okay, so you think, oh, not so bad, but apparently these photos were of her having her nappy changed, in the cot naked, really quite confronting pictures. And so, my question is, why would you do that to your daughter? But apparently she's asked them time and time again to take them down, and they haven't done it, so now she's seeking legal action. So, I mean, I understand, but I don't understand.
Well, I think this is actually a family relationship issue. This isn't, this is all, there's something going on.
Yeah, that was my first
Well,
thought
she
as well.
shared them, the parents shared them with 700 of their friends on Facebook. I would probably feel a little bit intimidated by that. You know, how close are your friends? And I know parents can get really proud of their kids and want to share all of these fun things, but surely there's a limit.
I don't even have 700 friends on Facebook.
No.
Yeah, but especially if your child is getting bullied, and this is what she reported, she was getting really severe bullying because of these photos from her friends as well. So you think, well, if your child is getting bullied and she's asked you to take them down, why would you not do that?
Yeah, well, the father actually thinks it's his right to show them because he took the photos, but what do you think the boundaries are there? You know, she's in them, but he took them.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually an interesting thing. Just this week, I actually read in Closer to Home in New Zealand. So there's this artist, she takes photographer, and she's got this gallery, this exhibition going on, and she's actually got a naked photo of a 12-year-old. On it, and
Does she have permission to have it?
No, that's the thing.
Okay.
In France, you have to have permission or there is really serious fines. You have to have permission whether they're a kid or not.
Yeah.
Taking that photo and putting it up on social media.
own child?
Yes, you do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So some places are ahead on their boundaries, but other places are lacking. Social media is still that unknown.
And I agree with Melody. There's got to be something wrong with the family dynamics if when the child is saying at 18, Mum and Dad, please take these photos down, they're causing me problems, and Mum and Dad are still keeping up there, there's got to be a bit of a family issue there.
It's my right to...
My kids say to me, Mum, don't do this or don't do that, it's embarrassing. And you go, OK, I understand where you're coming from. You're an adult now at 18, so you pull back on it. But they're not doing that. So what choice does the child have?
Well, do you show photos of your kids?
No. No.
Not
at all.
Facebook.
No. Oh, look, I'm not great at Facebook anyway, but there's no way that now I'm posting photos of my children online. They do that themselves. They post what they want. My photos are in a scrapbook for their 21st, and we've deleted some of the things that don't need to be seen.
Fair enough. I was going to say, I have like a family page on Facebook and we share a few pictures during that, just with each other, not, with the entire list on my Facebook of friends.
That's hard.
But I'm actually really conscious of trying to protect them because at the end of the day, all my girls, that's a person, and one day they're making a footprint, or I'm making the footprint for them, and I feel really responsible for that. So I'm trying to tread carefully, but also I am a proud parent and I want to show people pictures of my kids because I love them.
You've got to remember that whatever you post on Facebook is going to be there forever.
That's right, it's a footprint forever. Okay, well, it's confession time and I am quite willing to put my hand up. Has anyone, maybe Shona here, has anyone disciplined their kids in anger?
And she looks at me.
Well, I'm not going to look at Mary Ellen.
Yeah, I had to come clean. I have. Yep, I have.
Yeah, so how do you feel after you've done that?
I was thinking about this on the drive down here because we're discussing it, and I was thinking about my son and how I'm very proud of him that the fact now, he's 19, he can actually diffuse a situation because of the way I've handled or how badly I've handled it sometimes. So he's actually worked out how to discuss and diffuse anger. So for me, I'm starting to think about it's okay to show a bit of anger in the right way to your children so they know how to react to anger when it comes along.
But then there's showing anger and then there's disciplining your child when you're angry. Is there a difference, do you think?
Yeah.
Look,
Yeah, there is, because frustration and anger can cause you to do things that are feeding on that feeling, not necessarily teaching them or disciplining them, as opposed to punishing. That's sort of how I see it. Having said that, I am no saint. I will not ever get Mother of the Year.
No.
And I am an emotional person, so that's something that I have to be aware of, probably more than most, because I am a highly emotional person. And there are days where I'm like, I'm so sorry that my kids have me as a mum, because I have fed into that frustration and that anger when I've disciplined them. But there are other times where I'm like, I've really got that right. So you've got to forgive yourself.
Yes,
and you've got to be able to say, all right, what can I do better next time? And it's almost like you have to plan a bit.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the day.
Well, it's interesting how you say that, because a lot of the blogs I was reading, I mean, I'm not a parent myself, but they said there was these sort of trains of thought that they would get into these cycles about, and it was like, why is my child like this? Maybe it's because I'm too angry, I'm a terrible parent, and then because I'm a terrible parent, why is my child like this? And it kind of goes, I don't know if you experienced that, but you got to forgive yourself at the end of the day.
And look, it's a hard gig. Being a mother is or a parent who's at home with their child is a hard gig, and it's 24/7 and you don't escape from it. And that was my issue with disciplining my small kids. And I got to a point where it was the chair in the naughty corner, which sometimes I think didn't work. It was worse than smacking or doing whatever we do to discipline.
Did you have any support?
No, not a lot.
Like no family support?
No, my family
friends
lives in New Zealand, so...
Yeah, see, I really struggle because I look at, single parents and they're doing so much on their own. I look at my friends who have marriage problems or financial problems, and those things just can feed some of that frustration when your kid does something wrong and you just sort of explode at them. You just don't feel good afterwards. But I just feel really... I can't sit here and say this is what you should be doing, and I know what I should be doing, but it's a really hard, I think, path to walk in looking at other people. Like Mary Ellen, I was thinking before, maybe have you been in the shopping centre and you've seen a parent go off at their kid?
Oh, yeah.
Someone like me?
People always say, oh, they must be judging them so hard, but I'm always like, oh, bless, like that is such a difficult situation to be in. Like I have all the sympathy in the world. I mean, I've done babysitting in the past, and I know it's really difficult when there's like a kid that's just, because I can't discipline them, I'm not their parent, but if you are their parent, I imagine it would just be impossible.
I think it'd be really nice if we could probably look out for each other and sort of band together as a community and support. I think that always goes a long way and helps. Right, well, I guess we all need to take a break from family responsibilities at times and do something practical, creative, or alone. Here's a fun project from our very own DIY Dora.
A growing trend in weddings, carnivals and spring festivals is the flower crown. And why not stand out from the crowd and make your own? All you'll need is some flowers, craft glue, a wire headband and some pliers. First step is to play around with your flowers and arrange them into how you would like it to sit on your head. Do you want it off center, a full crown of flowers, or all the way around? We're using fake flowers, but you could also use real ones. Thread the stem through the wire and secure it in place with the pliers or with wire. Just keep adding to the piece flower by flower and use glue if you need extra hold. Once you have all the flowers in that you need, just trim off the flower stems and you are all set to go. And there you have it, your very own unique headpiece.
Now, I don't know about you, but when it comes to healthy eating, sometimes it seems like you have to have a seriously cashed up budget to be able to afford organic, locovarian activated ingredients. So here to offer people who have a normal budget some hope is Trish Guy, our regular dietitian from Sanitarium. Trish, please help us out. I know that I blow my budget each week and I try and buy healthy food, so help us out. What do we do?
Well, I think there is a perception out there that it does cost a lot to eat healthy, but what the research shows is that it's actually not quite clear. Some research suggests that it is more expensive, other research suggests it's not. But what we do know, in terms of what the average Australian is eating, we're eating far too many of our foods are what we call discretionary or junk foods, things like cakes, biscuits, fast foods, takeaways, sugary drinks and alcohol. And some recent research in Australia has shown that the cost of eating that way is about 18% higher than a basic healthy eating according to our dietary guidelines. So, you know, it doesn't have to be more expensive.
But what about all those, like, you know, superfoods that's coming out, your quinoa, your chia seeds, your organic
Yeah,
stuff?
they're expensive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I guess one of my tips for healthy eating is that, you know, superfoods are great and, you know, they have wonderful nutritional benefits. And if you can afford them, that's wonderful. But if you can't, it doesn't matter. You know, there are, you know, everyday affordable foods, fruits and veggies or other alternatives that are just as nutritious and health beneficial. So, you know, the latest whole grain is teff, but, you know, we know...
Sorry, teff? What's teff?
Teff. It's I think it's a... used to make bread in some African countries, but you know, traditional whole grains that we've grown up loving, you know, wheat, whole grain wheat in products like wholemeal bread and wheat bix, rolled oats, barley, $1 a packet for barley, just as nutritious and provide all the same health benefits of whole grains as some of these more superfoods. Coconut oil is another one. Very expensive, but you know the best oil for cooking has been shown to be olive oil, which is nowhere near the cost.
So to a certain extent, it's kind of like not following the trends of what's the superfood. Just go back to your basics.
Absolutely, absolutely. So plenty of fresh produce as well as planning. And I wanted to talk about fresh produce because, you know, there is a perception that it is really expensive and at times it can be, but you know, it's probably because it's not in season or it's been imported from far away. But, you know, when fresh produce is in season, not only does it taste delicious, it is much cheaper. My family, we're loving watermelon at the moment. 90
isn't it
cents a kilo,
beautiful?
whereas you can pay up to 3 times for that at other times of the year.
These little gems.
Yes, strawberries. Yes. So, and you know, thinking of fresh produce, the more processed it is, guess what? More cost comes in. So strawberries, as you say, they're, you know, about $3 a kilo at the moment, but processed forms in bars can be, you know, well over $30 a kilo. A fresh banana, about $3 a kilo also at the moment, whereas banana bread can be 3-4 times the price.
Yes.
Okay, so talk to us a little bit about what you've got there, because I can see all the legumes there,
Yeah,
particularly
so,
the red lentils.
you know, some of my, I guess, top tips for healthy eating, one would have to be planning, and that's not only planning what your main meals are going to be and writing a shopping list, but planning for when you're out and about. I don't know about you, but my kids just, as soon as we're out, they're hungry.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Having plenty of healthy snacks ready to go and learning what you know works really well. And you know, I have my go-to bag of healthy snacks that I take with me everywhere. But loving your legumes, so things like your kidney beans and lentils, they are fabulous in recipes as a way to replace some or all of the meat, and you can really save a lot of money by replacing some of the meat in your recipe.
Oh, so you're saying replace these with the meat that you would have been using?
Yeah,
Okay.
so lentils are fabulous in a bolognese sauce. Chickpeas just delightful in curries and soups and things like that. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Trish. That's fantastic. Well, I know that women have been struggling with the whole life-work balance thing for quite a while, a few decades, centuries, and mums seem to get judged regardless of how they actually choose to organise their lives. But now it looks like stay-at-home dads are starting to experience the same kind of pressures. Melody, I'm going to start with you because I know you've just started back in full-time work and your husband is now at home looking after your little boy. How is that going? How is he enjoying it?
He's loving it. I think he makes a better mother than I do. Yeah, it was like, first day I come home and there's banana bread, homemade.
Wow.
And then the second day I come back, there's banana ice cream. He's doing actually really well.
Wow, so it's working well for you guys.
Yes, for us, I think, yeah, it's actually working really well for us. But it's really hard, though, at the beginning, like when we're coming into it. I had to find him, like, you know, because when I was staying at home, I had those mothers' groups and stuff like that. There's no such thing as, I have to introduce him to my mother's group, so he's the father.
How did he feel about that? How did he feel about having just, you know, women there and not a lot of men?
He didn't seem to mind.
Yeah, well, that's actually something I was thinking about when talking about, like, stay-at-home dads, because I know some of you ladies, you've spoken about being a stay-at-home mum or just a mum in general. It's often a very lonely experience. You feel kind of ostracised with the kids all the time. And I was thinking, well, you know, but at least products are marketed to women, mothers, and at least there's mothers groups, and at least there are a lot of stay-at-home mums. But for dads, just imagine, it seems a lot worse.
It's far more isolating. It is.
Yeah, but we'll start to pick up stuff, and we'll start to pick up like dads groups and things in the market, you know, supply and that sort of thing. Trish, how have you found it? Like you're at home and you work, and your husband helps look after the kids. How do you find that sort of balance, and what do you think of men sort of getting more into that role?
Well, it works really well. I've got a wonderful husband. He's very supportive, and I don't know how he does it, but he can somehow get the house completely tidied up and spotless and the kids' rooms tidy in a way that I can't. I just
Wow.
He's on a mission to get it done, and he gets it done, and he really loves it. And then, you know, whereas I think we try and do too many things at once, which is, you know,
Probably.
adds a lot of pressure.
Probably that's where I'm going really wrong. But it is really nice to see dads taking more of a role. Like, don't you think it's making a difference to our kids?
Oh yes, it's actually something that I really like, because, you know, this means that he actually gets that bonding time with his father.
That's what I was going to say, because my husband stayed home a couple of days a week when our children were very small, and that's the time that he remembers, is that he had this time with the babies. Yeah, and it gave him a bonding time.
Well, it's really good that I think everyone's sort of starting to have more equality and get involved with their kids. Look, it's time to visit Gia in the kitchen, where apparently she is whipping up a blue smoothie, and don't worry, I am reliably informed that no Smurfs were harmed in the process.
That was delicious. Ooh. Who needs cafe smoothies when you can make them at home and without all the bad stuff? Because cafe smoothies are full of sugar and lots of ice cream, but now we're going to make a really healthy version, and I know Olive loves it, all my friends love it, and you're going to love it. And the key ingredient is frozen bananas, because it becomes like ice cream when you blend it with a little bit of milk. It's a great tip, especially the ones going really brown. They make awesome smoothies and ice cream. So I just used 2 for this smoothie, 1.5 cups of frozen blueberries. You like blueberries, don't you? Just 1 teaspoon of vanilla essence. And what's that one? You think it's chocolate? Everything's chocolate at this age. So cinnamon, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. This is really gonna make the flavour. And to sweeten it, instead of sugar or honey, Olive just ate a date. Oh, I put dates in it, and these are medjool dates, and they're so sweet and soft. I just put 2 dates in it. And I just put milk in there until it's covered. You can use any blender for this again. I know I like to stress that. I just want... You want some? Okay. I know. You want it bad. I know how much you love it. Oh, are you going to share this? No. No? What about for me?
I can have the other one.
Okay. Well, you can have it all by yourself. Greedy. Enjoy it.
Peter Tripovich spent decades of his life tramping around his farm in Victoria. But when he retired, he found that walking long distances is a hard habit to break. At the age of 79, Peter started out on achieving a lifelong dream: to walk all the way around Australia, a journey of about 20,000 kilometres. Starting from Melbourne, he walked up the eastern seaboard through Sydney and Brisbane, then across to the top end and through Australia's most remote regions to the west coast and down past Perth. Peter has always led an active lifestyle. He doesn't drink or smoke and has a strong Christian faith. As a consequence, he was able to clock up an amazing average of 30 kilometres per day. But at Pemberton, Peter chose to stop. His wife was seriously ill and he wanted to be by her side. Tragically, her health gradually deteriorated and she passed away. It wasn't until 10 years later, at the age of 89, that Peter hit the road again. A part of his motivation was that he wasn't just walking for himself. He was walking to raise funds for International Children's Care, a charity that rescues abused and enslaved children in Southeast Asia and gives them a new start. It was late summer as Peter approached the Nullarbor Plain, a desert crossing of 1,100 kilometres. After celebrating his 90th birthday on the road, he kept walking, all the way back to Melbourne to a hero's welcome and a place in the record books.
Incredibly inspiring journey that he's sort of taken there. Very impressive. Look, now we're hugely privileged to have Louisa Hope here in the studio with us today at the table. Louisa, thank you so much for coming in and joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Now, the Lindt siege, the Lindt Café siege that was in Sydney in 2014 is fairly well known, particularly in Australia. And you were one of the hostages there, 16-hour siege. And at one point you were directly, I guess, confronted by the gunman there.
Yes.
That must have been incredibly frightening. What were some of the thoughts going through your head?
Yeah, well, I can't pretend that it wasn't terrifying, quite frankly. You know, I'm sure, though, that the whole country had that sense of being afraid and scared on that day. So, yes, it was pretty hairy.
Did you talk to God throughout that journey? Because I know you're a Christian. Like, how did that sort of help you?
Well, I tell you what, I absolutely was talking to God non-stop. You know, we're reminded that to pray without ceasing. And I truly understand that experience now because, you know, that day was non-stop, you know, just constant before God and, yeah.
Well, I read somewhere that you were saying that despite all the frightening scenes that were happening, there was a certain sense of peace that you were having as well. How?
You know, that's just definitely the case. And I think that, you know, I learnt something really important that day. And that was the difference between my logical head, my emotional heart, and my deep gut sense of my soul and my spirit. And I think that at that place, you know, deep within my soul, there was that overwhelming, you know, peace of God that surpasses all understanding. And that's something that's part of our Christian inheritance. And then, of course, you know, emotionally, I'd be sometimes like, oh my goodness, he's going to kill somebody, or it could be me he's going to kill. And then there were definitely times when logically I thought to myself, this is it, we are not going to get out of this circumstance. So yeah, I think I learnt to distinguish in that regard, you know, those different sort of ways we think and feel.
Absolutely. So that's one of the lessons you would have learned. What are some other lessons you would have learned in that experience? And since then, I suppose this would be something that would be with you every single day of your life, essentially.
Yeah.
What, reflecting on, have you learned from that experience?
I think that the one thing that's definitely changed for me is a sense with regard to my faith anyway, is not that my faith is any different actually, but it's far more expansive. You know, I feel fuller and stretched, and that God's even bigger than that, you know, in that circumstance and that experience that we had. So definitely that, and also just how grace really sustains us all, you know, and I'm very mindful of the sense of life purpose, you know, because there were on 3 separate occasions actually where I actually really did think that I was going to die, and yet here I am. And, you know, it's astounding to think that some of the forensics that the police brought out at the inquest, you go, how am I not dead? But yet God's intention and God's purpose. So that for me has been reassuring and encouraging, and also pushes me to keep going and look for the better.
So what do you think is God's purpose for you now?
Well, I'm very much mindful that we all experienced that day together as an entire country. So my experience was a little bit closer to the action, I guess you could say. But I feel that very much that, you know, God wants me to encourage other people to not be afraid. You know, I understand fear well and truly, but, you know, not to be afraid in this time of terror that the world's in, and also to think about how we can be truly what Jesus was, which was loving.
Do you keep in touch with the other members of that were in the siege with you?
Yeah, we try to. Everyone's, you know, busy trying to get on with their ordinary life and get back to normal. And yes, but we do try and stay in touch. They're lovely people.
How do you go with forgiveness after something like this, particularly towards the gunman, towards, you know, how everything was handled, all of that? How do you go with forgiveness?
Yeah, I think that, you know, for me on the day, I've been a Christian for a long time, but, you know, for me on the day, I knew that I had to guard my heart, and I just refused to let myself go to that place of hating that man. He was a very ordinary human being in lots of ways, you know, terror. So it looms so large, but terrorist, all that kind of thing. But actually, this ordinary human being was making a very bad choice that we're all impacted by. So for me, it was a matter of choosing not to hate him or resent him, which can sound a bit, super spook, I guess.
Yeah.
But the truth is that that's how it was for me. I could not, in some ways, I could not honour him by letting him capture that part of my heart. That part of my heart belongs to God and grace and hope, and if I had let myself be tainted or my heart poisoned, then, it makes me no different to him in many ways.
Are you still on that healing journey then?
Yeah, well, I find that physically I am, but, I find in my heart that because of everything that's happened since the siege and the great opportunities that God has given me, because I was so determined that something good was going to come of that circumstance. And we started the Louisa Hope Fund for Nurses at Prince of Wales.
I love that.
And that's progressing really well, and I'm
So what are
very
you doing
excited
to support
about
the
that.
nurses there then?
Well, I was very fortunate. A media outlet gave me a lot of money. I was able to pass that over to them. And you see, the thing is, those amazing nurses, with seed money, they are the ones who are going to make the good come out of this situation, because some of their projects are astounding. And I'm so impressed with what they're doing and what can be done. So for me, the nurses, that's my happy place, because I can just see this circumstance being turned around, and it'll benefit all of us.
I want to go back a little bit to what you were saying about how, we can all live without fear. How do you tell that to a non-Christian?
Yeah, I guess that is a good question. And so I guess for me, I say that, it's the fear of the terrorist or the terror or whatever horrendous situation you're facing in life. We all have circumstances that are challenging for us. So I say that it's the fear of that circumstance that is more damaging to our souls and overwhelming our minds and our hearts than the actual circumstance or the actual situation. I guess you are right. As a Christian, in that cafe, even though I was quite attached to living, but I knew that if I died that day, it was okay with my soul, okay with God,
And just quickly, what would you say to others who might have been through a traumatic experience?
I'd say I'd encourage them to consider their practice and what they are practicing, and to encourage them to be grateful. Gratitude is not just thank you. It's a practice, it's a habit. So it's those daily habits that we develop that will get us through.
Thank you so much for joining us, Louisa. We really appreciate your time and all that you've been through and being a blessing to us. Look, we'd really like to know what you think, so please jump onto Facebook, let us know, email us, and you can always check our stuff out at thetabletv.com. Thanks so much. Always remember, there is room for you at the table. We will see you next time. Bye for now.